One of the scariest shots in golf is one that I hate to say out loud, Martin. It's the shanks.
Yeah, it really is a horrible shot. Many would say the hardest shot in golf, and I know some really good pros who would agree with this, the hardest shot in golf is the shot after a shank.
That's true.
Many a story of that. Blair, you've played golf all over the world. You've played college golf at a very high level, European Tour, Ladies Tour over here. I'm going to ask you.
Oh, I knew he was going to go there.
Yeah, well, I do. Have you ever shanked one?
I have, yes. And there's one story that comes to mind, and I've never spoken about it because I try to forget those memories, you know? But one story in particular, I was playing in the Colorado Open, was playing a pretty good round, got to a par 3, short par 3, uphill, surrounded by trees. To the right is OB and just tree-lined, and it was visually scary. And I got up there, and I shanked my shot. Had to tee up another one because it's OB, feeling uncomfortable, shanked my shot again. So I feel like it's one of those shots that you don't expect to hit, but you do need to be prepared on how to deal with it when it comes, because when it does happen, it can mentally shake you up, and it did just that to me.
Yeah, no, it absolutely can shake you up. I mean, it's a knockout punch. Now,
yes.
I will say the shanks don't come from nowhere. They don't come from, it's not a bolt of lightning out of the blue. But look, let's understand just what a shank is. Let's get this out there. Some people say it's the face open or such like that.
We need to know.
I would disagree. A shank is just when you hit it right in the heel of the club.
Yes.
Right in the heel of the club. The ball will squirt for a right-hander. It will just squirt violently off to the right. You'll know if you're getting close to a shank because the ball will feel like you hit a brick. It feels really heavy when you hit
Not
in the heel.
Not a good feeling.
You will also find if you swing, you hit in the heel, almost shank, and you think, I let go of the club. And you bring the club back. If the club is severely closed from where you began, you've hit it in the heel. You've almost shanked it. So those are all clues. Balls that squirt low and to the right, balls that feel like you've hit a brick, not a golf ball, and the club twisting in your hands, that's the result of hitting it in the heel. Now, Blair, if you put your club behind the ball, I wasn't there in Colorado, but what I would have done after your first shank, if I'd been your caddy, was the following 4 things. Understand this, golfers. A shank is where the club returns further away from your feet than it should do. Now, some people address the ball in the heel anyway, but not a good idea. But a shank is when the club has moved outwards in that direction. You're almost hitting it with the hosel of the club. Now, what are the things you can do? There's 4 things you can do. There's lots of ways to go, but look, a little 4-point plan. Number 1, stand further away from the ball.
Okay.
Let's start with that.
All right.
If you're hitting it in the heel, just stand further away from the ball.
Give yourself a little more room.
Yeah, address it off the toe if you must. I look at Zach Johnson, who I think may have in his life hit a shank or two because he stands away from the ball and he addresses it off the toe. Now the club's got a lot further to go before he gets in the heel. So first point, address it off the toe and stand further away from the ball. Second point, get the weight either under your arches or on your heels. Now, that sounds counterproductive, too. Just a minute, Martin. I'm hitting it in the heels, so I've got to put my weight on the heels. That's a correction. That's right. You want your weight to be on your heels. If your weight is too much on your toes, it's easy to fall into the ball and hit it out of the heel.
Yes.
So point number 2 would be just wiggle your toes.
Okay.
There's a little anti-shank dance, this is. You know, get the toes going, baby.
Right.
Little anti-shank dance. Now, the third thing that I would tell you to do is make sure the swing is relatively upright. Shafts that are flat, shafts that go way inside, way around, tend to throw the club out there, and then you're very easy to shank. So a little drill I got from David Graham, US Open champion, PGA champion. As a practice swing, take the index finger of your right hand, your trail hand, and as you go back, just somewhere in a mid-backswing, point that index finger up to the sky. Stand the club up. As David said, get the heavy end, get the head end over the grip end so the club feels light. If it's way back here, it'll feel heavy. You want the club to feel light in your hand,
nice
in
and light.
Backswing. So nice and upright, nice and light. Now, you're well on the way, so let's hit one with those thoughts.
Okay.
You're well on the way there, but I've got one more, bit of a secret sauce I'm going to give you in a moment.
Okay.
But let's stand further away from the ball, addressed off the toe. That's number 1. 2, let's get the weight a bit more towards the heels. On the heel stops the heel of the club. And 3, let's swing that club on a more upright plane going back. The chances of shanking there are highly, highly diminish. Now, I've got one last thought here.
Okay.
This is my absolute go-to emergency 911, stop the bleeding if I've either shanked one or I'm close to shanking one. They say in cards, you know, to win a great game of cards, they say, keep your cards close to your chest. Here's what I'd say in golf. To win over the shank, to beat the shank, keep your hands close to your legs.
Okay.
The story is that Byron Nelson, back in the day, I mean, what a great player, but he had a period of shanking the ball. People didn't know that. How did he get out of it? He tried to have his trail arm brush against his trail leg when he was coming into the golf ball. If you look in the history books, before he went on that incredible win streak that he had, he was shanking the ball. The great
I
Byron
never
Nelson,
knew
didn't
that.
happen to anybody. But look, he got his hands really close to his legs coming down. So that's the secret sauce to me.
Okay.
If you're going to avoid it. So there we've got 4 things. You could, well, look, understand you're hitting it in the heel of the club. How are we going to stop that? Number 1, let's just review here. Number 1, you're going to stand further away from the ball and get the weight very much on the heels.
Okay.
That's number 2, get the weight towards the heels. Number 3, you're going to get the club a lot steeper going back. And number 4, in the memory of the great Byron Nelson, let's have the hands. Keep your hands close to your legs coming down. Just practice doing that. Just practice brushing that trail leg. It would be all but impossible to shank the ball if you do those. And as I say, a couple of them are done in the setup, and the last one is done on the downswing. So for Byron Nelson, the memory of...
For Byron Nelson, if it worked for him...
The great Lord Byron. By God, it worked for him. It certainly did. Here we go. So those are 4 things you can do. Now, you don't need to try and do all of them, but you can practice each of them. And as I said at the beginning there, shanks don't come out of nowhere. Check your contact, use a bit of impact tape or a dry erase, see if you're tending to hit them towards the heel. Take notice of whether the ball feels light or heavy. If it feels heavy, you're hitting it in the heel. So take some of these action steps to stop what could be an impending shank.
Such a great lesson, and it's important for everyone to know why you're shanking it and how that happens. And now everyone has the tools to prevent it, right?
That's correct.
Great stuff. And hope this helps you stop the shank. For more great tips, subscribe to Golf Channel on YouTube and make sure to watch School of Golf.